and head on home. And he's gone.
Spencer, can I make a comment for a minute?
Yes.
Delinsky, I heard the name and I was excited to see. Clayton, your father and I went to school together, and he was a phenomenal basketball player. Oh. And he's a person that I looked up to because I thought he was just a really good human through high school. And it's not a surprise to me that you did the pledge tonight based on what I know about you and your family. So It's nice to see you. And I hope your brother's doing well too. Okay. Okay, have a good night.
I love that. As is customary, we will pause now for a moment of silence. Thank you. Okay. Routine business review of agenda. Does the agenda look okay to everyone?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Payment of bills, take care of payroll.
I reviewed the payroll. It's in order.
Okay. Our Franklin High School student reps. This evening we have Ahan here with us, our junior class president, if you wouldn't mind taking it away.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. Thank you for the introduction. My name is Ahan Shetty. I am the junior class president at Franklin High. And I just want to touch up on some things going on at the school right now. So we're entering our first full week at the high school, which is pretty exciting stuff. So things are finally getting into flow. Students are back to waking up at the right time and being in school and stuff. I just want to touch up some extracurricular news. The school's having a club fair on September 22nd in the courtyard, and students can learn about new clubs that they're interested in joining and just talk to other students that are in these clubs and get a better idea if they want to join them. The mock trial team has had an info night. It was last Thursday, and they just got to know, basics of mock trial if they're interested. And also there's another follow-up meeting for new potential students that have interest and want to join, and if they just want to go to another meeting. So all is welcome there. DECA is one of the most popular clubs at Franklin High. It is the school's business club, and they had over 200 participants, I believe, last year. And their first meeting is Thursday, September 29th in the auditorium at 2:20 after school. That's also free, welcome to anyone, returning members, people that are interested in joining. So great stuff. For the junior class, particularly, we are right now focusing on forming a prom committee. These are a group of students that we want about 10 to 20, maybe even more, the more the merrier, to help build our prom, which is going to be in May 5th at the Lamberto's Ballroom. So way ahead in the future, but we want to start planning early. And right now, students are, I'd say overall, they're pretty excited. Things are getting finally back in the flow. Like I said earlier, we have our first home football game this Friday. So students are really excited for that. Pep band's going to be playing, student section, all that exciting stuff. And also what is new at Franklin High this year is we have a period called advisory. And this is typically 10 minutes a day. And it's really just, it's not academic. There's no curriculum. You just kind of spend it with the classmates, which for freshmen, it will be all 4 years. They'll have the same class, same advisor. For sophomores, 3 years, juniors, seniors, etc. And pretty much you just kind of form like a community, And it's pretty nice because we live in such like a fast-paced school where it's just next class, next class, next class. 1 minute you're doing science, and then next minute you're doing math, and then next minute you're talking about history. And these are just 10 minutes to kind of like step back. And what's also nice is on half days, these are actually 40 minutes. Our first half day is coming up on Wednesday, September 21st. So that is going to be a time where our advisors will talk about and teach stuff that may not be taught in like our class curriculums, but are still very applicable to us. I heard, for example, from one of my teachers, they'll teach how to build a job resume, which is stuff that you might not learn in one of your typical core academic classes, but it's still very useful in our days now. So students are pretty curious to see how that's going to be. They don't know what we're going to do in these 40 minutes, and they're kind of looking forward to see how it's going to go. And then, of course, at Franklin, we love our sports. So Football is 1-0. The boys soccer team is 1-1. Girls soccer 1-0. The field hockey team's 2-0. Volleyball had a great win last night against KP. They're 2-0. And the golf team is wicked hot. They are 5-0. So yeah, that's all I have to share with you guys. Thanks for having me again, and I look forward to this great year.
We look forward to having you back.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Get out of here.
Good job.
Right. Lucas, on to the superintendent's report.
All right. Good evening, folks. Good evening, everyone in the audience. It's been a busy few weeks at Franklin Public Schools as we opened up our 2022-2023 academic year. We welcomed back 4,695 students and approximately 800 faculty and staff members across the district. The preparations and contributions of all of our staff and faculty members and leaders across the district really showed and required a lot of dedication to get school up and running and planning, whether they were planning and leading meetings or setting up classrooms, communicating with families and collaborating with colleagues. And it really set the stage for us to have a successful year and plan for the weeks and months ahead. On Monday, August 29th, we began with an opening day for our faculty. We had a light breakfast and gathering, which followed by some opening remarks by me and the staff recognitions for longevity and years of service. And then we transitioned to a keynote speaker we had named Mirko Chardin. He works with the Novak Education Institute. His main focus and message in the evening was, in the daytime, was really about access for all students. And it was really paired nicely and closely aligned with how we design learning for students, so universally designed learning, and also the MTSS framework, which are part of some goals. It's a little bit of a precursor to what you'll hear at the next few meetings from our leaders across the district. We then transitioned to building-based kickoffs led by our building principals and assistant principals, and it really set us up for a successful day and successful opening of school. On Tuesday, the 30th, we had our 1st through 12th graders plus our up to age 22 students join the Franklin Public Schools and start their day. We then transitioned on Wednesday to having our kindergartners join us, and Tuesday, our ECDC students, our early childhood kids, arrived. And within that time, we also had a professional development day, which was on Friday, the 2nd, September 2nd. And it was a full PD day. And in the elementary, we focused on anti-bias building blocks provided by the ADL, which is a curriculum. They provided that. We also did a literacy needs assessment overview, first part, and some math work that occurred at elementary. In our middle schools, we also conducted an overview of the literacy needs assessment, which was a pre-K through 12 initiative. There was a student advisory work, as you know, and you just heard from Ahan, that happened at the high school and the middle level around our advisory curriculum through the year and implementation. The science curriculum kicked off. We talked a little bit about in the spring, you might remember, with Dr. Rogers and the grant opportunity we had to kick off some new middle school science curriculum. And it also included work with our civics projects for our 8th grade teachers who met to collaborate on just best practices and examining what the expectations are across the state. So really excited about the work that occurred at our high school. Each of the departments in different areas really worked in some content-specific PD, whether it was a textbook implementation, once again, literacy, as I mentioned, and also some modules, whether it was world language or the advisory work that everyone participated in. And our new teachers were trained in Keys to Literacy, one of the first stages of it, to learn some instructional practices. Everything I mentioned required a lot of hard work, planning, stamina by many to make that happen. So I recognize and I value that, and I value the work that occurred as I look out into the crowd. And the folks here were really involved with making that happen, and I'm proud of that. So I'm proud, and I say that with deep gratitude to all of our educators and leaders for the work that you did to help us open school. The Special Education National Banner, we were recognized. I want to congratulate Franklin High School for once again receiving the National Banner recognition for Special Olympics International. We've successfully achieved the national standard in excellence in the areas of inclusion, advocacy, and respect. And the athletes, partners, students, coaches, and volunteers, and our teachers at Franklin High all played key roles in creating a school climate where everyone feels included and respected for who they are. And I want to send out a special thanks to our coaches, Lisa Berger, John Layton, and Jeremy Rice for their commitment. You did hear about the game-winning shot and the gold medal. This is part of that organization, just to give context to folks at home. And to receive the national banner, we were one of 12 schools in Massachusetts to receive that recognition, and among 164 across the country. I would note, of those 12, we were one of 7 to have received this more than once. So it's just a high distinction, and I wanted to call attention to that. And we received a nice letter from the president of the chairman of the Special Olympics International Committee, Tom Schreiber, who took a picture with our students down at the event, and it was just a real special moment. The Seal of Biliteracy, Dr. Rogers sent out an email or a message today. We're pleased to share that we will be participating in the Massachusetts State Seal of Biliteracy initiative for the 22-23 school year. What that means is the Seal of Biliteracy is a credential that promotes second language acquisition for any student who demonstrates proficiency in English and any other language, whether they speak a non-English language at home or they learn it at school or within their community. So FBS looks forward to honoring those language experts who acquire dual language. And there's a letter that went out with more information. You might have seen it already come through, and just wanted to point that out for folks that may be listening. The final update is on COVID. Last meeting, I provided an update regarding COVID and the joint memo that came out from the Department of Health and DESE. Mrs. Morano sent a letter out today regarding that. And this school year, we are expected to focus on COVID mitigation strategies. And more information came out in that letter. One piece I would call attention to is if kids are sick, just like if they had the flu or any other type of illness, parents should keep them home. If a student does test positive for COVID-19, you should report that to the school. And if students are absent, it's similar to how if you had the flu, if you kept your child home, if you want that absence excused, you would need to have a doctor provide a medical note that says that they're excused. So COVID falls in line with what we've done with the flu for many years and things to that nature. And we'll no longer be sending case positive communications home as a result. So those are the updates. I'll pause there before we introduce our amazing new hires and open it up for questions.
Thank you, Lucas. I'll start with Camille. Do you have anything at home?
I don't, thank you.
Dave Callahan?
Yeah. Thank you very much for the update and for all of our educators. Thank you so much for a fantastic start to the school year. Really appreciate it. One thing, at our last meeting, we spoke at length about like the staffing issues that we were having and some of the different strategies we were using to fully staff all of our classrooms. With the school year now kind of, fully in action, where do we stand on that? Have we, just in terms of, are we having to still use some of the agencies to be able to kind of hire? Are we still looking to kind of fill some of those other positions with more full-time staff members?
Yep, so we do have, we currently have 5 open positions across the district. Last time we met, and that's for teaching positions. So last time we reported out on the 23rd, I believe we said we had 31 or 25.
I think it was, it was like high 20s.
That's including ESPs. We currently still have positions. We have 21 positions currently that we are looking to fill, many of which are ESPs within the district, but there's 5 educators that we're looking to fill. Just to make it clear to folks, when I think about the number of people we have 516 teachers and we have 5 to fill. I think we're in perspective. I would just add just a perspective layer. That doesn't take away from the fact that we want to make sure that we fill these positions. And we've been working with HR to clear the deck, reposted so that they get to the top of the queue so people can see the open available positions that we have, and we'll continue to actively hire. Some of the positions that we have are actually in process through interviews, close to recommendations. So I think what would be most helpful is each school committee meeting, maybe I can provide an update on where we're at with our hiring, just to keep people informed of our process. People are working really hard to get qualified, licensed educators that have the qualities we want to get in front of our kids. And there are other cases separate of new, like vacancies, where you have someone who may be out on a maternity leave. And then we would, just like we would have 5 years ago, have a long-term sub in the position who works within the department, can collaborate with a grade-alike peer or a course-alike peer to make sure that the students in the room are provided the same type of education. So 5 out of 516, is that like 0.9? 0.9. So we're less than 1%, but we take that seriously and we want to make sure that we fill those. So, and even our agency, I don't know if you want to speak to that, Mrs. Morano, but we continue to still look for positions to fill with employees within Franklin Public Schools as well. This is not unique, so I don't say this in a defensive manner, but certainly want to just call attention and provide a little perspective for our community around this is not a unique issue to Franklin or Massachusetts or the country, but certainly we take hiring seriously and we plan to fill all of our positions.
Thank you. No, it's great to hear how quickly we were able to lower those numbers. And you're right. Yeah, there's a turn on the news every single night and you hear talks about national teacher shortages all across America. So I really, applaud all the work that's being done to bring that as close to zero as possible. And yeah, if you might be able to include, a report in the future too, just with those numbers, that'll be great. But really, thanks so much for what you're doing. And again, for the teachers that have signed up and are already working and filling those classrooms, thank you so much. I truly, truly appreciate it.
Just to echo, as my colleague said, thank you for all the work that you're doing. Central Office, I think, Phil is doing as much as they possibly can to cover all the gaps that we do have. And we, as Franklin, are in a much better space than other districts. So thank you for that effort. I don't think we'd be there without you. And then same thing for our educators that are here and watching as well. Thank you for all making a great first 2 weeks of school. I can speak for my boys, having a great first experience into the middle school world and fourth grade. And they wouldn't have that experience without the work that the educators have done from what's happening these past 2 weeks and also what's happened prior to this in terms of all the preparation that you all have done. So definitely not gone unnoticed. And thank you all for all the hard work you do and that you'll continue to do for the district as well.
To echo what fellows just said, thank you for this update and for a great start to this year. Same to all educators, faculty, and staff here. I was really excited to hear about this Special Olympics national banner. That's really exciting to see that the work that we're doing to be inclusive of all our students at in Franklin Public Schools is being recognized, and that we're one of 7 schools in the entire country to have received this twice. That's truly spectacular. And then the seal of biliteracy, that's wonderful that we're providing that this year. I know just how important and enriching it is for all really any person, particularly students, when they can learn a second language and be proficient in multiple languages at such a young age. It's how enriching that is for someone's life. So it's great to hear that we're encouraging that. Thank you.
Elise?
No questions. I just do want to echo what all my colleagues said about gratitude and thanks to all the staff.
Megan?
Same thing. Echo. Congratulations. Happy that we're off to a good start this year. And I would think that our students are, proud to be in our school system. And again, I also thank the staff for all the hard work that it takes to start everything up, with all the challenges that we're having. So thank you.
I just wanted to thank you for the update on the hiring. I know that the central office has been doing an amazing job keeping us updated. Gosh, since we've been hearing about shortages since the pandemic started. So I know that none of this is new to any of us or really anyone around the country. You mentioned a long-term sub. Could you touch upon what that might mean for a student? They're not just sitting in class watching a movie. They're actually being
That's a good question.
Brought through the curriculum, being
Sure. And I hit on that a bit, but I can be a little more explicit. And I think Mr. Hannah's on here as well, but I will just speak for a long-term sub as a consistent adult that's in the room that is getting guidance from the department head at the high school or a team leader or someone to help make sure that the students across a course alike, US 1 or English 12 are receiving the same information and Obviously, we want to have our teachers back that are teach those courses, but certainly long-term substitutes are committed. So it's not, the idea is not to have a turnstile and have somebody new in every day. That can happen on short term where you have, that's why we have subs in our building. But certainly if we know and we can predict that someone's going to be out, we certainly plan for that and get someone in the room who we feel can do that job at the level we expect. So
thank you very much. That was very helpful.
Okay.
All right. If there's nothing else, Mr. Jagier, guest presentations, our long-awaited DLI presentation.
Before we get to the DLIs, I'm going to hold them off for a second because I'm really excited about the report. The report's not over. I have long reports, but it's not over. And I'm
still waiting for the DLI presentation?
Yes, still waiting. I'm excited to introduce our newly hired administrative staff who's here with us tonight. And we've provided an overview, so we'll share that and read. And I've asked Mrs. Morano and Dr. Brothers to help read to introduce some of the folks. What I thought we could do is when you hear your name, if you could just stand up and wave. The camera will pan to you, so maybe you could just stand while we read. And then you can sit when the next person goes. Does that sound fair? Okay. All right. Mrs. Nogby is moving. She's already okay. The first administrator I'd like to welcome back is Ms. Stephanie Wasick. She is the principal at Jefferson Elementary School. She's been in education for 24 years. She was in Natick previously, but before that was in Franklin. Ms. Wasick should be standing next to her. And she has a master's in educational administration and a bachelor's in elementary education and psychology. And we asked each of our folks, what are they most looking forward to this year? And Ms. Wasick said she's looking forward to building relationships with Jefferson students, staff, and families. So I'd like to welcome Ms. Wasick back. We're so happy to have you back with us.
Okay, next up, I would like to recognize Dr. Timothy Frazier. Dr. Timothy Frazier is our newly hired curriculum director for ELA and social studies. He comes to us with 13 years of educational experience from Foxborough Public Schools. Dr. Frazier went to the University of Vermont, attended Western New England University for his master's in curriculum, and received his PhD in educational leadership from Lesley University. Dr. Frazier is most excited to start supporting the growth and development of literacy programming pre-K through 12 in the Franklin Public Schools.
Nice.
I am happy to recognize Mrs. Lisa Daly. Lisa is our new Director of Student Health Services. She has been in the district as one of our health office nurse RNs for the last 16 years. She has a BSN in nursing, and her area of focus for this coming school year is, I'm with you, Lisa, moving past COVID and forward to focus on the overall physical and social emotional well-being of our students and supporting all the district nurses, which she's already has done a phenomenal job. So I am proud to partner with her.
We were old Danny Sullivan buddies for a while when I was a teacher. Okay. Next, we have Ms. Heidi Harris. Heidi Harris is our director, our DEI director, and she has over 2 decades in education, has worked in school districts in New York City, Los Angeles, and Massachusetts, in addition to the nonprofit sector for research and development for organizations. She has advanced graduate studies towards her doctoral degree, and she's most looking forward to supporting and helping guide the work at the district and school level, supporting student experiences and serving as an internal resources for each of our school communities. Welcome, Heidi.
Next, we have Ms. Beth Murray.
So I really believe Beth has planned on being here tonight, but she has a curriculum night for
from fourth grade.
Oh, she does. I'm still going to read the wonderful things about Beth.
Okay.
So Beth is our newly hired assistant principal at Jefferson School. She has 17 years of educational experience. She comes to us from Sudbury Public Schools. She has her master's of education in administration from Endicott College. And she is looking forward to fostering academic excellence for all students by supporting educators' continuous growth in teaching and learning, using student data and implementation of innovation approaches to teaching and learning. So welcome to that.
Just a fun fact.
Yeah.
Did we say that Ms. Wasik and Ms. Murray were an administrative team?
We did not.
So they were the principal, assistant principal team at Davis Thayer, and they both returned to work together again at Jefferson. So it's a nice story of coming back together, and we appreciate that.
Coming home.
Yes.
So next we have Ms. Carrie B Savage. So Carrie B Savage is the newly hired assistant principal at Keller Elementary School with 26 years of experience, all of which have been in the Franklin Public Schools. Serving as a literacy specialist at Davis Thayer and Keller for 25 years, and prior to that, teaching preschool for 2 years. Kerry has her master's degree in education, and she is looking most forward to continuing the work at the district at school level to develop our MTSS model and practices. In addition, she is looking forward to exploring and collaborating with colleagues in the area of growing and developing student leadership opportunities for all students K to 5.
So no one is happier than I am. So welcome back our food service director, Colin Boisvert. Colin comes to us with 9 years of educational experience in the food service world. His quick hiatus from Needham, the previous district that he was at. He comes to us with a bachelor's degree in culinary nutrition, and he is very excited to be increasing fresh foods for our students, as well as connecting more with local farms and providing more scratch cooking and options for students.
The scones are back. Thank gosh.
Scratch cooking. I like that term. Start using that.
Cooking from scratch.
I like it. That's good. Okay. Next, we have Cara Ellis. Cara Ellis is our Franklin High School athletic director. She comes with 22 years of experience. She was most recently working at Tantascwa Regional High School. She has a master's in secondary education, and she's most looking forward to building leadership skills, strengthening the communication skills, and providing positive experiences for our student athletes. Welcome, Cara.
I'd like to introduce Andrew Duquette. Andrew is our new Assistant Director for Special Education at the elementary level. He is going on his 14th year in education. His previous district was Westford Public Schools. He holds a CAGS in educational leadership, and he is looking forward to being a resource to the staff working at ECDC and to the K-5 elementary schools. He'd like to build our capacity to maintain IEP timelines, support families, and provide specialized instruction for our students requiring IEP services. He is looking forward to giving our special education leadership the autonomy and tools to lead the special education department in their schools, and we're so happy to have him with us.
Next, we have Ms. Megan Sanko. Megan Sanko is our second assistant principal at Keller Elementary School. She comes to us with 13 years experience from Neshoba Regional School District. She has her bachelor's in psychology, master's in education, and her CAGS in school leadership. Megan is most excited to make strong connections as a new member of the Franklin community, supporting staff in relation and student services needs, and collaborating to build a strong MTSS model. Welcome.
Two more administrators to name. Next, we have Adam Gooder. Adam Gooder is our K through 12 art director. He has over 25 years of educational experience, 15 at the college level, 10 at the high school level. He previously worked at Concord Carlisle, and he has a master's from Simmons and Lesley College of Art. And he went to New York, NYU for film and TV production as well. he's most looking forward to working on the following in his first year. He's looking forward to collaborating with his fellow leaders in the district, particularly around DEI and curriculum. He's looking forward to listening, observing art specialists throughout the district and learning about the great things they already do. And the third is he's looking forward to overseeing collaboration on capstone exhibits like art nights and sharing students' impressive creative artwork in all medias at all grades and all schools in the larger community. Welcome, Adam.
And last but certainly not least, we welcome Ms. Amy Harvey back to Franklin Schools as the assistant principal at Parmenter. She comes back to us with 30 years of experience in education, 24 of which were at Oak Street in Franklin and 6 as an ELA coordinator in Sharon. She received her undergraduate in elementary education and her master's in literacy and language from Framingham State. She is most looking forward to working with Ms. Barker and the Parmenter staff to support UDL. Welcome.
That concludes our welcome. Thank you, everybody, for showing up and being here. And it really means a lot to all of us. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I mean, it really is an honor and a privilege to sit here and extend a heartfelt welcome to all of our new and returning staff. Thank you for choosing the Franklin Public School District and by extension, our students and families. It means a lot. There will be challenges and changes just like with anything else, but mixed in there is a great deal of love and learning with our students and families. I know I speak for the entire committee when I say we wish you all of the best for your tenure here in the district. So thank you all very much. Now you guys can go if you want.
Told you.
You guys can get ice cream too.
I actually really want ice cream.
I don't take it. Where are you from? You have to stay.
I thought I was getting ice cream.
No. You gotta stay.
It's still good offer.
No. Mr. Jagir.
Yes.
Presentations.
Sure.
Our long-awaited DLI presentation.
DLI presentation. I am very excited.
I can't wait one more minute.
Well, it's happening. I'm excited to invite up our digital learning integrationists. This team is near and dear to my heart. I know that at the time we were looking prior to the pandemic, we were really looking and advocating for the opportunity to put professional staff who had the teaching chops to get in front of other teachers and help them to look at how they could help their students by using digital tools effectively. And through the work and support of our school committee, we were able to bring on board this team of digital learning integrationists. And I see this as a true investment in our system and a true investment in the work that we do with kids. And I know, Mr. Penza, we were back and forth on emails. There was an article I shared a few years ago that talked about, and I'll find it. You probably, do you want me to keep going or do you? Okay, so take you off the hook on this. So there was an article that talked about in education, there are a number of tools out there and there's so many available. And it talked about how do you find high quality materials and tools and subscriptions, but also be fiscally responsible and make sure that you're utilizing them to their fullest capability. And it provided some stats around the amount of dollars across the country that districts spend. And what I will say is I'm really proud of this group is if we have a tool, they learn to use it. And if it's not effective, they're okay with having the hard conversations around the data and who's using it and how many. And I just as a taxpayer and someone who's in town, I just appreciate that aspect. Let me take that hat off for a minute, the fiscal steward hat, and talk about enrichment, the work that they have done to support teachers. Any piece of technology that a teacher uses that requires any type of training, they are there to help get into the work. And this is not the same as I'm not talking about hooking up a projector, but how are we using tools effectively? So I'm just really excited. I will point out one more stat, and I'd like to invite you up at this point, if it's okay. They have a collective almost 90 years of experience teaching.
Wow.
When you think about that, I think that's impressive. Well, I didn't want to get into the everyone's resume, but I would say collective 90. I hope that was respectful. What I mean is that's 90 years of experience teaching. The majority of the time they've been teachers. And I've had the pleasure, as I've worked in this district for a long time, all four of these folks have tremendous reputations among educators as being very, very professional and highly qualified educators. So I couldn't be more pleased to announce and share Allison Finley, Kate Merton, Chris Penza, and Marianne Zogby. John Layton is also part of this in a partial role, and he's not with us tonight, but he is a part of that team as well. So I'll kick it over to you all after that introduction. You don't have to talk about the article anymore. Okay? Yeah.
Thank you so much for having us tonight. So tonight, while we talk to all of you, our goals are to have you meet us, learn who we are, hear an overview of the Franklin Public Schools Digital Learning Plan, and understand the progress that we've made thus far and what our goals are moving forward. I'm Allison Finley. We work together as a team, but we have divided up the schools to use our time most effectively. So I'm assigned to Keller, ECDC, and Jefferson. Prior to taking this role last year, I was a teacher at Davis Thayer, teaching third grade, and taught for a year in virtual learning academy.
And I'm Kate Merton. I am working this year at Oak Street, Kennedy, and Parmenter School. And prior to taking this role in 2020, I worked at Kennedy School for my whole career. So this is my 31st year in Franklin, and most of that was teaching fourth grade.
I'm Chris Penza. This is my 15th year at Franklin Public Schools. This is going into my second year in this position, full-time position. I work very close with John Layton at the high school. He's a point two. We share an office and we share a brain, and we bounce a lot of things off each other. So he's a huge help. So him not being here, I just want to make sure that, he does a tremendous amount, even just as a point two with a full teacher load. So he's a huge part of the team. I work primarily at the high school and Horseman Middle School.
And I am Marianne Zogby. I primarily work at Remington and Annie Sullivan Middle Schools. I'm going into my third year on the DLI team with inaugural members. Prior to this, I was in a middle school math position for 12 years, all of that at the Franklin Public Schools, and we're very excited to move forward. All right, so the next thing we want to do is we're going to start with an overview of our digital learning plan. There is an active link on the objective slide, so you can go directly to that if and when you want. But we wanted to give an overview of our 4 focus areas and then drill down a little bit into each of our focus areas and talk about what has been going on and what we're planning to do in the upcoming year. What are our goals for the upcoming year? And the 4 focus areas are professional development, the DLCS, or digital literacy and computer science standards, digital resource management, and technology infrastructure collaboration. Each of those areas are things that we have been focusing on and will continue to focus on. For professional development, our goal is to expand educator proficiency with the use of digital tools to impact student learning. The digital learning standards, there's a set of K through 12 digital learning standards, and our focus is developing and curating curriculum resources to support instruction of those standards in the content area classrooms, as well as working to develop a pathway K through 12 to implement those kind of holistically. And of course, when you have all these digital tools in use in a district, there has to be a piece where you manage them all. So a big focus area for us is managing identifying effective tools, as Mr. Jagir mentioned, but also recommending safe and secure digital tools and resources. And of course, none of this would be possible without a good collaboration with our technology department. Their role is to manage devices and networks and the infrastructure that keeps us running. And when we're implementing these digital tools in that environment, obviously it's very important for all of us to collaborate to make it all happen.
So as Marianne said, the first goal of our plan, the first part of our plan, it's kind of about teachers, helping teachers so that they can help students within the classroom. So professional development and then technological support. District invests a lot of money into digital tools and digital resources. Our job is to help teachers and students access those to the best of their ability, and not just access them, but practical application within the classroom setting for assessments, for feedback, for testing, for whatever it is, and to utilize those tools in a way that it incorporates teaching, learning, and all the things that we want as a district for our students. We have done a lot of professional development with regards to full day conference style. We've got a lot of fellow staff members to help come and help facilitate a lot of very important discussions. We've had trainings on formative. District has invested a lot of money on formative, which is a digital resource that teachers can use to help track student progress over time. Real live access to student feedback, instantaneous feedback. It's all live on a live dashboard, so they can touch base with multiple students at multiple times throughout the lesson. Cooking with Google, self-paced modules for teachers. The district has been very kind and generous of offering teachers opportunities to do self-paced modules in which they can earn district PDPs. So DLIs have created modules, individual modules for each Google platform, tool, resource. I think we're up to 12 of them at this point.
14.
Ooh, we're up to 14 of them.
And what happens is teachers will submit and then we award them badges. And when they have 10 badges, they can earn 10 PDPs toward recertification or toward recertification.
And I just want to add to that, we have found that, opportunities to get in front of staff and provide professional development, it can be tricky because there's so many other initiatives in the district. We have been we have found that this self-paced PD with PDP offerings has been a good format for that. So one of the goals for this year is to expand the offerings in our self-paced professional development to focus on some of the digital tools that we're paying for. The formative and our Google Enterprise are our important tools that we pay for, that we want to make sure we're providing as much professional development as possible.
And in terms of the DLCS standards, from an elementary perspective, we started last year by implementing a makerspace in each of the 5 elementary schools. We provided training for the library ESPs to be able to facilitate those lessons and get them up and going. Over the summer, we worked to take some of the feedback we got from the ESPs and the individual schools to try and improve the plans and make it a meaningful experience for all those students and for the ESPs. And so we will continue working on that this year, fine-tuning and making sure it's a great experience for all those kids during the arts exploration block in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade.
And last spring, the DLI team, along with Dr. Rogers, had an opportunity to attend a DESE-sponsored workshop where we explored different options for implementing a DLCS pathway into the curriculum. So we plan to continue that work this year with a focus on the middle schools, primarily because we feel like we're in the best position with the middle schools. The middle school students attend specials that directly deliver instruction in that area. So we feel like we have a jump start in the middle school band. So our first year focus will be there. But in parallel, we're also looking for opportunities to integrate these standards into content area instruction. And the next couple of slides, we want to drill down a little bit and show you what that looks like in the different grade bands for in the classroom, where that's happening.
I think we can say this is our favorite part of our presentation. Being able to share what we're doing and being in front of kids, I think all of us love that so much. So we're always so excited to be invited in and to be able to do these things in the classroom. On the screen right now are some pictures of K-2 kiddos in action. And what that looks like for that grade span for our youngest learners, it's getting them to actually log in. learn how to care for a Chromebook. And I will say, we'll never sweat more than when you're trying to get 20 kindergartners onto a Chromebook. And then once we get them onto those Chromebooks, then being able to tie the DLCS standards into what they're working on in the curriculum. So for example, kindergarten, first grade, they're working on sight words. So we can, Kate and I have worked to create some interactive slideshows where kids are learning how to drag and drop. They're learning how to navigate their trackpad and type while they're also building words and practicing sight words, practicing math skills, equations, things like that. We've also been able to elevate student voice, even with our youngest kids, by using things like Flipgrid and Book Creator to give students another way to share their learning. And also being able to communicate with families. We had a great opportunity to do some fun activities with QR codes where kids were sharing poetry with their families and then send that QR code home. Parents could scan it, see the video, and see their child sharing their work. So there's a lot of great opportunities there for those kids.
And in addition to the DLCS, which is a big part of our job, we're also working on integrating technology into the other subject areas and the other learning standards. So here a lot of things come across our email, like virtual field trips. So there's a bunch of companies in the country who offer virtual field trips. Our job is to share them with the staff that would benefit from it. In 3 to 5, we often share Buffalo Bill's center of the West, and they offer live field trips from Joshua Tree National Park, live field trips from Yellowstone. And the rangers are outside with an iPad, and the kids are in, and they're just with the students in the classroom, so they're able to ask questions. So one of our roles is to see that opportunity and then offer to share that with the staff and offer our services for people who maybe aren't as comfortable with the technology. So many teachers are very comfortable to plug in their TouchView, and all they need is the link. But some people aren't, and so we're there to help with that as well. You can see a couple other things that we wanted to highlight. Some things that we do are related to internet safety or the acceptable use policy, and that might be direct instruction on our part. We might co-teach with the teacher, and we develop materials, and then they can use those in future years. We provided that at the top is a mind map. That's a Google Mind Map, and that is explorers. It's the routes that explorers take, and then below that you can see the student who's going through the routes, and at each bullet point there's a video, there's a photo, there's some information, and that's the students receiving the information. The next step is for them to create one. We didn't get to that last year. This was our first year using it. We used Book Creator. We created class newspapers, so we're integrating in language arts, and then of course Flipgrid. So you've got a couple little green arrows there. If you're interested, there's a podcast that was created as a result of the class newspaper, and there's also a video of a 5th grade student from Parmenter on her American Revolution project that she did in 5th grade. Those videos were great. The students all recorded themselves, and then they all could watch them individually. They could do it at home, they could watch it in the classroom, and then provide written feedback. So for those students who aren't comfortable getting up in front of the class and speaking just yet, they still have the opportunity to do an oral presentation, and some teachers just make that one of the choices for them. So,
all right, so at the middle level, looking at the DLCS standards in action, on the left side of this, you're looking at a multimedia digital gallery that was made by a 6th grade group. They used a tool called Book Creator. Did we mention Book Creator? And so these 6th graders, they were in an ELA class, and their content standards were, the goal of the project was to spread a positive message inspired by their study of the book Stella by Starlight by Sharon Draper. So here they're working on their ELA content standards, but integrated in with that is an opportunity to address a couple of the digital learning standards using this Book Creator tool. And what they came up with, the kids had a blast. This was in June, when you would, like late June, when you would think the kids would really be checked out, and they didn't want to stop working on this. The standards that this standard Students will use a digital tool and media-rich resources to integrate information from multiple file formats to design and create a single online artifact. I didn't make that up. That's a digital learning standard. So that's integrated into their work in their ELA classroom, and this is the tool they use to do it. That isn't just an image, not a live link, but if you're interested in looking at some of those projects, they were really fun. When I say multimedia, they were recording voices, integrating music, having animation, like whatever it was that caught that child's interest, they were able to integrate that into their project. And each one was completely unique and really amazing. They sent a lot of great positive messages. On the right side of this slide, you're looking at some 8th graders in a geometry class. These 8th graders were charged by their teacher with each to put them in groups to teach lessons in one of their units. So the students had to go in teams and collaborate and develop a lesson to share with their classmates. And in doing so, so they obviously had the geometry standards that they were learning and teaching, but integrated in that, they had opportunities to, here's some more DLCS standards for you, communicate and publish key ideas and details individually or collaboratively in a way that informs, persuades, and or entertains using a variety of digital tools and media-rich resources. Straight from the DLCS, they're using the touch views. They had to get a little bit of training on how to use the touch views. They built their projects that had interactive features that students could use to learn the geometry skills. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So that's middle school in action.
At the high school level, the two biggest things that we got from buy-in from teachers and students was Canva. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Canva, but Canva has great educator and student accounts with a lot of free access to templates. So think of it as replacing the old pen and paper. Think of it as replacing, if you're going to do a then and now poster, if you're going to do a collage, if you're going to do anything with kind of multimedia. The one on the left is a live Twitter feed from a world history course in which they were recording the events of December 7th, 1941, Pearl Harbor Day. On the right side of the screen is Google Earth. And the Google Earth was the second really big buy-in I got from teachers with regards to the concept of virtual field trips. You could literally go anywhere you want in the world. You can plant down on a famous place in the middle of the woods. And if there's a geo feature, you can go down, you get a street view, and you can see what it's like to be in these places. So two of the assignments that I helped out with, one was an exploration of Asia. So they kind of, the top one is about Japanese and kind of how Japanese has, or Japan has really expanded since, or innovated since the post-World War II era. And then the one below it was a World War II, the effects of World War II, as you can see, Berlin is Germany. So students can win in, they can create slides, they can incorporate graphics, pictures, images, detailed slideshows, and then they can pinpoint important geographical locations or geomarkers to give people a virtual field trip and that their classmates can view.
Okay, so our third focus for our digital learning plan is digital resource management. And a quick update, we aligned with the Education Collaborative a couple of years ago, and they help us to navigate the student data privacy agreements and the legal aspects. So everything that the teachers are using now has an agreement that will protect student data privacy. And if those sites or those resources wouldn't sign them, they're now blocked. The teachers aren't able to use those. So that's been an ongoing sort of a gradual process as we opened it up. And if our firewall does block something, we have established some protocols where the teacher will fill out a form and say, I'd like to use this website and here's why. And that form will go into a spreadsheet, and currently it goes to Dr. Rogers, who will review the academic piece and then review the safety. And if it's okay, we do unblock it. So it's not sort of a hard and fast line, but we do have protocols in place. So we've been working on that for the last 2 years. Protocols for adding extensions for Google or other apps. And this year now we've sort of tightened up with that in collaboration with the technology department. Our continued goal is we monthly need to review our student data privacy agreements to make sure that they are up to date. If they've expired, we just have to request a new one. we want to continue to develop systems for evaluating sites and share that information with staff. I think the pandemic has been great for us to really look at digital learning and what is available. And now we can really dig into what's available and what are the benefits of it, and maybe what are some things that aren't so beneficial now. So we'll continue to look at that and share that information as we have with the staff.
So number 4 is technology, infrastructure, and collaboration, and kind of touching base on what Kate just talked about. I'm proud of a partnership we've built with the technology department of Franklin, the town of Franklin. They are not only work for the town, but they also work with the schools as well. So kind of bridging that gap between their universe and the educational universe. They've been incredibly helpful, incredibly responsive. I'm sure they're sick of getting hundreds of emails from me on a pretty consistent basis about, inquiring about why this resource was blocked. If not, can you try to explain to me why not? Or do you have another reason? Or do you have you must have your reasons. Can you share that with me so I can share that with the faculty members as well? We've built systems in place to vet potential, resources that we want access to. We've had great discussions with them about kind of what they can allow, what they can't allow, and they've kind of guided us to what is allowable and moved us in that direction. So we have a bi-monthly meeting with the director of technology in which he touches base with upcoming information, important infrastructure updates. He solicits questions and feedbacks from us. And it's really opened the door to communication between the teaching world. I mean, the technology department, their job, and they take their job very serious, is to protect data privacy, to protect the resources at the town level. But oftentimes, students and teachers need access to certain things. So they've been very responsive. They've been very helpful in trying to bridge those gaps and find solutions to make sure that teachers and students ultimately have access to the resources that they need.
That's it. So questions?
Everything I wanted. I've been asking for, I don't know how long, about digital literacy instruction for the younger students, and just to see it all come together with this framework and with the DLCS. I'm floored. This is perfect. Thank you so much. I'm going to go to Camille. Camille, do you have any questions, comments?
Hi. Thank you so much for the presentation. I was happy to hear about the protection of student privacy. I think before a lot of those measures were put into place, schools would be excited to use these new programs and wouldn't really realize how they were, making companies wealthy off of our kids' information. And so I'm glad to hear that that's really tightly monitored. I was really excited to see the high level projects that kids are using technology for. I've taught online since 2003, and it really is it takes a long time for districts to ramp up and to use the technology in a way that's mindful. I have used the SAMR model where you want to create brand new things that the technology makes possible instead of just substituting being online and putting a worksheet online. Of course, worksheets, having PDF copies, having digital copies have made a teacher's job easier. It has made more convenience for families. But I want to continue to encourage the mindful use of technology so our kids aren't on computers all day. Sometimes hearing of students, doing something that they could do with a pen and paper to get a break for their brain and for their eyes and the blue light. We just want to make sure that we're doing those sorts of really being mindful about whether it's something that you need the computer for, or if it's something that could also be done on paper. I don't mean to sound like a Luddite or old school. I just get concerned when, I hear of kids coming home and they're like, yeah, I was on the computer all day, and that can't be good for their eyes and brains. That said, I'm also excited about the modules for teachers. Anytime teachers can work within their own needs, their own interests, and also their own excitement about technology. And when you have it top down, everyone must use this one thing, that doesn't work well in the classroom. So I absolutely am excited to hear from you and support all of your efforts. Thank you so much.
David Callahan.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the presentation. I know so many of the tools and the opportunities they kind of give to the kiddos, like Makerspace. My daughter came home just so excited and so jazzed about everything with Makerspace. And when we were doing the walkthroughs of the schools, I remember seeing some of the areas that they kind of sectioned off for the Makerspaces, and saw just incredible projects already kind of coming out of that. It was spectacular. And I also just want to kind of echo what my colleague said too, just about the student digital privacy. So I'm really glad to hear the steps that are being done to secure the students' privacy. I just want to confirm too, I know kind of talked about blocking websites and like Google Chrome extensions. Does that still kind of expand to pretty much all digital resources, apps, programs? It's not just websites that we're protecting. Okay.
And if somebody wants to use something that we don't have an agreement for, it doesn't mean the agreement doesn't exist. And it doesn't mean that the company won't sign it. It means we haven't initiated that yet. So oftentimes people will say, I'd love to use, some stuff came up this week, and it turns out that we just needed to let them know, and within 24 hours we had an agreement signed. So, but yes, it's any kind of digital tool.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
And if in the event we run up against one that a teacher wants to use and it's for some reason they don't sign an agreement and we consider it to be not a secure application, part of our role is exploring alternatives for teachers that are safe and secure to accomplish the same task.
Oh, okay.
And the great part of being part of the consortium is that other school districts have already vetted it. They've already read all the language, and their lawyers have they pay their lawyers to do all the work, so we can piggyback on a lot of those agreements. So.
And just to piggyback off what Marianne said, just looking not only for student data privacy, but also just to make sure our infrastructure runs well, just looking for redundancies among apps that we're using and trying to streamline what we're using for teachers to make it data privacy safe, infrastructure safe, and
a quality instructional resources.
Yes,
we want to make sure, there are lots of things that are safe and they're not stealing your data, but are they really worthy of our students' time? Is it an instructional resource that has merit?
Thank you very much for the clarification. I truly appreciate that. Thank you all.
Thank you. So just to remind folks, DLI didn't start off as a fully funded program. We had extra funding, and it was temporary, and we took an attempt to bring this together and see what we got for return on investment. And I'm glad to see that, we were able to make this permanent. And then just what we're getting from this, I feel like you're providing value multiple faceted. I mean, you're to the teachers, as you said, to the students. And I think our community should understand that sometimes we have to go out there and try something different. And then we don't know what we're going to get. And this is just amazing work. And we should continue to do so, because it pays dividends. So one, thank you, because I can't imagine what the teachers would have to go through if they had to create this content on their own, or how disparate it would be if every teacher had to do their own content versus having a group of folks creating the content, doing this research, and caring for the whole. So definitely phenomenal. Things I loved that I heard and saw was around the way we're involving our students with technology. I think one of the things that we heard throughout the pandemic was the loss of learning. And I feel like by bringing technology into the classroom, we're not taking for granted that the kids can grasp it. We're now giving them direction, guidance, and they can use this in the classroom, and then also take it at home to supplement what they've learned, so that whatever perceived loss they may have, they can build it up at home. And if they have a knack for technology, can run with it on their own without that teacher, and really build upon that. So I think that's a great opportunity for growth. The virtual field trips, great. I love that. I didn't realize that we had it was an individual park ranger that would actually take the class. So I think that's something phenomenal. I think when people think of virtual field trips, they think of, okay, we're watching a video, you're just, and it's not interactive. And I think this really brings the students in, but it gives us a bang for our buck. So once again, the value that we're getting out of it. And I think if we put out the funds out there, we will get a lot more in return. I guess for me, with all the work that you do, how are you at capacity? Like, are you to the point where there are things that you can't do, and if we had more resources that you would do more of, or are we in a space that, you know, we're managing and maintaining?
I'll start. I work in 3 elementary schools. I spend a day and a half in each elementary school, give or take. We meet on Tuesday mornings for an hour and then sort of fill in with meetings. As far as that capacity, it ebbs and flows. There are days when people will call me and say, there's no time in your schedule. I really need you to come today, but I'm not available because it's a day and a half. And there are times where I have more time to work on the administrative things, the data privacy. Right now, it's a lot of kindergarten and first grade logging onto Chromebooks and getting ready. So it's pretty busy right now, I would say.
I guess I would add to that working in 2 middle schools, the needs do kind of fall into the same category. So going back and forth between 2 middle schools, you can't be in both places, and inevitably someone's going to need you in the building you're not in. So in a perfect world, if we had one in each building, but the piece that I think is challenging is when you go into a teacher's classroom, they're opening their door to you, and you can in some cases be a stranger. And so it's that relationship building that allows you to get into the class and co-teach and be the most effective you can be and have a comfort level with the teacher. And building those relationships, I think, would be easier if each school had a dedicated DLI. I'm not necessarily advocating for that. If we're talking pie in the sky here, I think that's a piece that would improve if each of us were dedicated to a particular building and developing those relationships that will get us in the classrooms and have everybody in the classroom be comfortable, the students, the teacher, the DLI.
All right, great. But once again, thank you for all the work that you do. It's amazing, and I look forward to see what comes and how we hit our goals for this year. So thank you.
Thank you for being here this evening and sharing this wonderful information with us. It's really just great and encouraging to see that we're teaching our students digital and technological literacy at such a young and formative age, and just preparing them for the future. So it's great that we and Franklin Public Schools are providing them that. A couple questions. So what would you say has been the biggest benefit to the students' learning experience of this program, whether it would be something specific that you mentioned here or just in general?
Well, one thing, or just, can I give you a couple?
How much time?
First off, I think the student data privacy element of it, I don't think that can go unchecked. I think that's got to be top priority of making sure that student data and their privacy is kept secure, and putting those systems into place and making sure those systems are lockstep and, just consistent. And I think the second part is getting the tools to the teacher, getting the proper tools, the appropriate tool in the teacher's hands so they can, facilitate really impactful and meaningful lessons to students. Just for me, those are the two that kind of jump off the page.
And thinking about what Camille said about mindful use of technology, that gives teachers the opportunity to model that mindful technology use to their students, as well as be able to make it meaningful for themselves as well.
I would say as far as the students go, I think this is not going to be an educational term, but that idea that you can shrink the earth, the idea that you can go to Joshua Tree National Park when you're studying the national parks or when you're studying animal adaptations, those experiences that we couldn't have imagined when we were children. The idea that you can talk to a classroom in another state and practice your map skills because you're talking back and forth and you're using the vocabulary, but it's just beyond what we can imagine. And I think that impact on student learning is hard to quantify, but I think their experiences in the world are just so different from ours. The idea that a student can read a poem and send a QR code and that could go to their parent or their guardian and they can share it with their grandparents and everyone's seeing these things, and the children see the power of that and they make those choices. So I think that would be my elementary.
It's hard to pick just one, but I think one of the things that jumps out at me as beneficial to the students is with technology and these digital tools, teachers are able to provide individualized instruction for students in a way that they just simply could not do without digital tools. So for special ed students and language learners and students with diverse learning needs, these tools take teaching and learning to a whole level that you could not get to without the tools, just because there's such a wide variety of need in the students, and the tools help teachers bridge that gap and meet students where they are. Very powerful in that way, I think.
Excellent. That's really encouraging to hear. Thank you for sharing that. A second question, of the goals that you mentioned for the coming year, what do you believe is going to have the biggest impact on moving the program forward?
I would say the professional development. I would say the formal professional development, our conference style, and the professional development that happens naturally when we're in classes working with technology with the students. That I think, as I think Ali said, teachers are busy. They're really busy, and technology changes so quickly that it's just to plan for a day and then try to learn something new and try to choose what the right thing to use. Having our ability to take the time to do that and really practice and use the tools and then go model those tools and offer our support, I think will really make a difference.
So, I mean, time, like it's the number one thing.
Yeah.
Time with teachers, time in front of teachers, time with students, time in front of students. There's just not enough time in the day. There's not enough time in the school year. But that's logistically being present, being with teachers as much as possible when we're on rotating schedules. If you want to be responsive as you can to teachers' needs and student needs, all the mandated trainings, all the initiatives, and then somehow incorporating the PD to align with district paid resources or getting in front of teachers to model a lesson on some new resources that they're not comfortable or familiar with. So for me, it'd just be time. Time's kind of that big thing.
Excellent. And then one last question. How do you see, or how do you hope to see the program develop over the next 5 years?
I think looking big picture at 5 years, I saw an email earlier this week that talked about the different kinds of teachers you have in the district. We have digital natives who are our biggest growing population of teachers who have grown up with digital tools. They're not afraid, they're trying things, and they're very savvy. And then we have people like, most of us here who would be called digital immigrants, where we, were born at a time where there was not a lot of technology and we've had to learn, but we're, embracing it and trying to use it. And then I just came up with, I needed another catchphrase. So I'm calling them the OG teachers who, have come along, and they started at a time where they didn't have to use technology and might be feeling, I don't think reluctance the word, but just, oh my gosh, what is the word?
Hesitant.
Yeah, hesitant, or insecure with their skills. And so it's helpful for us to start to move each of these groups of teachers up to the next level, and to be able to, as Marianne said earlier, develop those relationships, help to make people comfortable so we can be modeling the 21st century skills for our students.
And a lot of what we do, it's not replacing what they do or replacing them. It's accentuating what they do and helping them. Like, that's all we want to do, is want to get in there and let these things help them, help students, help them reach students, help them make material more accessible to students. It's just the classrooms are getting so much more diverse than when I started there 15 years ago with regards to, who's in your class and how do you reach all those students, and how do you get the equity, and how do you make material accessible to all these kids. I just think those are the digital resources. I think that's what they can do.
And I think looking at us as a team, I think a PD piece for us is going to be developing our coaching skills and finding strategies to get us in front of more teachers.
And the mathematician in me can't resist going forward. I feel like we have corralled the Wild West. Sort of our processes are in place, our systems, we know each other, and we're like an oiled machine now. And I think taking our team to the next level, obviously it's always going to be part of our life to research and monitor the digital tools that are in use. But the next level of that, I think, would be sort of quantifying the efficacy of those tools, not just making sure they're safe and secure, but are they effective? Are students learning outcomes better because we're using this tool? And that's sort of like DLI 2.0. And it's going to take us some time to figure out exactly how to do that. But I think that's longer term, one of the things we'd like to wrap our heads around. That's it.
Thank you. Yeah, well, only one last thing. When you see Mr. Layton, tell him I said hi. I had him sophomore year.
I will.
So thank you.
Elise?
I'm just going to say a lot of the skills that we use every day, digital tools for collaboration. I can't think of a day I don't collaborate on some sort of digital tool. I'm also reminded, and I see Mr. Baca here, my son had applied for ADL, an after-school program, to become a peer leader, and they had to do a Flipgrid and introduce themselves and apply. And at the time, I remember my son said, I don't understand why I have to do it this way. I'm never going to use the skill. And then something came up like a week later where his uncle was basically like, I had to interview for a job, but the first thing I had to do was, it wasn't Flipgrid, it was the company's format, but they had to speak to some answers as a candidate, and that's how they were screened for employment. So I just think those types of skills that we wouldn't have had to use at a young age to continue to develop, and it ties right in with our portrait of our grad work, which I appreciated seeing in your digital learning plan, which lays out. That will be posted also and shared with the public and all of our teachers as well after this meeting. But it does hit on kind of what they're up to, what are their goals for the year. So thank you.
Elise?
Yeah. So what are they up to and what are their goals for the year? I feel like you really put this together so well, and I love the presentation. And this is our second presentation we've seen from you, and it's been a year. I had to check because I was like, time's funny in COVID times. And so it was a year ago, and you've done a lot of work in a year. And like you were saying, Marion, sort of corralling the Wild West, and that's a lot of work. And kudos to you. I know we got a lot of new technology devices, and as you were saying, building relationships with teachers is important, because how can you teach them how to use all these tools if they don't trust you and welcome you into their classroom? And I think that's, that takes a lot of time and a lot of energy and authenticity too, which is important. So I think Lucas spoke to this a little bit, and so did Al, but just to remind people, pre-COVID, we used to talk about how other districts had positions like this and we didn't, and we weren't quite sure. We had sort of a coordinator-ish position, we had some committee type roles, but it really wasn't sort of centralized and structured in the way it is now. And I think that this was a silver lining of COVID, being my kids were VLA for a year and a half, or virtual for a year and a half. And so I learned so much about technology. They learned so much about technology. These teachers and all of you were living it. And I think we learned a lot of tough lessons in COVID, but this is one of the silver linings. And I think we saw it as an absolute necessity at that point to get people there to support these VLA teachers and their families and the students. And just the fact that I think you all explained really well from your different perspectives, different examples, different levels of really the types of work that you do. So you're integrating digital learning into our classrooms. And so the teachers are teaching just like they always were, but you're just enhancing it and making it a little bit flashier and more fun and faster. And like you're saying, we could have read about Joshua Tree in a book. We could have, and we could have imagined it. We could have drawn it with Craypaws or whatever. But this is a whole different type of learning and really hitting all the diverse learners. And it's really so inclusive and really exciting. We're just so glad to have you here. Okay. So you're saving time, you're saving teachers time, and time is money. That's very important, I think, and enriching their school experiences more than many of us can even imagine. A lot of the things you're talking about, some of them I know really well, Flipgrid, for example, or Google Docs or whatever, but some of it I don't, I need to figure out what formative is. I'm really excited about learning about that because that sounds really helpful, but overwhelming. And I feel like I could use a DLI in my life. And certainly like digital research management as a parent with a 12 and a half year old. And And so like, that's a joke, but it's sort of not. So are there ways that, not that the DLAs have extra time, but is there a way that somehow like parents can tap into this expertise, or we can have some kind of forum, or like, I do wonder, is there a way, like we can get on Common Sense Media every once in a while, but it's certainly not this robust as far as privacy, efficacy, all these, vetting certain programs. I don't know if this is above the scope of the DLI. It's certainly not in the plan, but
I just would say that the DLIs offered during COVID and throughout COVID coffees for parents, and particularly our newest parents who were new to the system and weren't sure on how to use some of the technology. Or if you remember back, how to get on a Meet, that was a skill we all had to learn. Where to find my child's information so that I know which class Meet to put them on. And those are things that the DLIs were instrumental in at that time. And we've evolved all from there as people, but certainly there's room in there for continued engagement with our community, particularly around the resources that we're going to be supporting. And another long-term goal is really around the user experience. I'm going to put my parent hat on, is around as students navigate a school day, there's a lot of tools out there, and it's, one might be suited best for like a world language course, and then an English class and a history class might. So I think the use of tools, and on the user end, how many logins do we have? How many different platforms are parents and students expected to utilize? And are there ways to look at that from an efficiency standpoint? So to streamline some of those processes and tools, and that's a longer term goal. But I do see that opportunity for continued engagement with our parents. If the coffees started to dwindle, I know that you held them and they weren't highly subscribed after people, or we were all in survival mode. I think when people learned how to get on a Meet, it was like, that's what I need to do right now. But certainly maybe we can come back to that and look for other
And I
ways.
think we talked, I know we talked about ways to communicate, what's happening, and it certainly has been on our radar. We haven't come up with sort of a method for that yet, but it's definitely something at least that we've been thinking about. So thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah, and I'm not thinking like individual consultation, like me asking about my son on this, but just like maybe even like a corner in some kind of newsletter that's like, DLI hot tip of the month or something, just because you have so much knowledge, and as you're saying, technology changes so quickly, and it's like your job to stay on top of it, and then all the rest of us are sort of just scrambling. Okay, I guess the other question, the last question I have is this digital learning plan looks like a lot of work and a lot of thought, a lot of effort and teamwork, collaboration went into this. Is this like something we have to have for something, or is this something you put together just because you're all organized and you need to get it together and it just happens to look really pretty and efficient?
Want to blame me?
Yeah, so we started in the first year that we were the DLIs. We started with Lucas, and that was certainly something that was a goal that he had. So we met that first year, and we had a 27-page document of all the things. And then last year we had a year under our belt, so we took a step back. We had some new team members.
Fresh eyes.
Yeah, fresh eyes, and we narrowed it down. But definitely it was Lucas's was the driver.
It just felt like we were investing in these positions, and it was important early on to set some goals and determine how we reach that. And you all just took off with it for sure. But.
And it's helpful to us too, because when we start to so many demands on us every day, and for us to know where the boundaries are, is that a digital learning support thing? And we're all solutions oriented by nature, so we're helping wherever we can, but it provides a roadmap for us to kind of define what it is we do. And that's really helpful to us, where these are relatively new positions and we want to understand what's expected of us in the schools, and communicate it too. So now we are clear on what it is we're providing, and people can see that as well.
If you looked at the job description, there's 30 bullets, things that were required. And to try to wrap our head around it and to try to make it cohesive and to kind of get on the same page, it was, all right, so what's our action plan? Like, how do we take our position and make it applicable to school committee, so that you understand what it is that we exactly do? How do we make it applicable to the schools, to the principals who are going to try to facilitate and utilize us with their teachers? And how do we make it applicable to the teachers? They know, what do we do? Like, do we come in and fix their devices? No, not really. That's not what we do. Where we can help you utilize those devices, but it's more about the practical application of everything that goes on into teaching a classroom. the teaching part, instruction, feedback, assessment, everything. So it was a labor of love.
Well done. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Megan?
Yeah, thanks so much. This is a really important service that you guys provide for the district. It's great to have a team of people developing these and sharing that knowledge and building relationships with the teachers, because there's no doubt this saves time and enhances the the learning for the students. This translates into more education and career stuff for the kids as they progress. And I just want to sort of add, when I was in elementary school, our digital learning was an Apple IIe with Oregon Trail and word munchers too.
Teaching. Thank you guys so very much. This was really wonderful. Thank you for having us. Now you guys can go get ice cream. Ice cream.
Not you, Dave.
This is Mr. Jagir, do you have discussion action items?
Yes, I do. So we have some policies for second reading for you. First is ADC, tobacco products on school premises prohibited. The second is AC, the non-discrimination policy, and ACAB, which is our harassment, including sexual harassment policies. They were reviewed last meeting. Feedback from one of the committee members was to add information about our compliance officers who are responsible for overseeing those policies for the district. So we did include that for your second read on both policies, the non-discrimination and the harassment. We also added language that says that the grievance procedures will be reviewed annually by the Franklin Public Schools team, and the superintendent would be responsible for overseeing that the protocols and procedures are in place. Any questions?
We'll have to have a motion in a second before we have discussion.
So I recommend adoption of the following policies as discussed. ADC, tobacco products on school premises prohibited. AC, non-discrimination, and ACAB, harassment, including sexual harassment.
Okay. Is there a motion to adopt policies ADC, AC, and ACAB as discussed?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Discussion, questions? Camille, I'll start with you.
No.
Dave Callahan?
No.
Al Charles?
No questions here.
Dave McNeil?
None for me.
Elise?
Nope.
Megan?
No questions.
Okay. All right. So seeing none, vote will come on the motion. We're going to have a roll call vote. Camille?
Yes.
Dave Callahan?
Yes.
Al Charles?
Yes.
Dave McNeil?
Yes.
Elise Stokes?
Yes.
Megan Whitmore?
Yes.
Denise Spencer, yes. All right.
The next set of policies, we're recommending the elimination of our R1 and R2, which are basically like addendums to those policies you just approved, which are the non-discrimination harassment. They're ACAB-R1 and ACAB-R2. The purpose is to, I included in your packets, to replace those with procedures that outline the policies more clearly and provide, these would be front-facing documents that will go to the public. We've learned over time that the procedures that we have in place, as they were written in the policy, weren't as comprehensive as we would like. So what we've done is we've spent a lot of time, work with our attorneys, work with our policy subcommittee, feedback from our administrators to develop a plan similar to the bullying intervention plan, where it lists more information that would be more accessible for staff, students, and families around. How do I report? What happens when I do report? What would an investigation look like? And then what steps could take place to lead to a determination? So we've listed that out more comprehensively, and that's the goal, to mirror, they'll have a bullying policy with a plan, and also have the two policies you just approved, which are the AC discrimination, non-discrimination, and the ACAB, which is your harassment policy. And these would be paired with those.
Okay.
So I will recommend approval.
Nope.
I'm sorry, recommend eliminating the following policies as discussed. ACAB-R1, grievance procedure for complaints of harassment and discrimination, and ACAB-R2, grievance procedure for complaints of sexual harassment under Title IX, and the Education Amendments of 1972.
Okay. Is there a motion to eliminate the following policies, ACAB-R1 and ACAB-R2 as discussed?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion, questions, Camille?
None.
Dave Callahan?
Yeah, one other thing too, I just wanted to touch upon in the preceding policies. We also kind of added language that these policies, these procedures that we're looking to kind of implement would be reviewed annually. So there's language within the policy itself that is going to kind of force everybody to be transparent and continually look back and make sure that everything is up to standard. So, but otherwise, no discussions.
Al Charles?
No questions.
Dave McNeil?
None for me.
Elise Stokes?
No, but thanks, Dave Callahan, for clarifying that. I think that's important.
Megan Whitmore?
Nope.
Okay, all right. Vote will come on the motion. We'll have a roll call vote. Camille Bernstein?
Yes.
Dave Callahan?
Yes.
Al Charles?
Yes.
Dave McNeil?
Yes.
Elise Stokes?
Yes.
Megan Whitmore?
Yes.
Denise Spencer? Yes. All right. Moving on to discussion only items, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so we have just the review. I referenced these during that vote for elimination so that you had context to not just removing a policy without having a procedure to back that up. Our next plan is to post these and make these public and alert our community that we have these particular policies, and we'll update those, and we're going to combine these procedures. Thank you, Mrs. Morano. We're going to combine these procedures with our bullying and have it all on one page so that it's clearer and more easily accessible for our staff, our students, our families to have that. And just wanted to point that out in the discussion only so that it was clear what we're going to do. Okay.
And then item B, we are so eager to hear more about your transition plan.
I am excited to share with you. I have a transition plan that I'll share with you now. I'm excited to welcome Dr. Michael Sullivan, who is my coach. You may remember from last meeting, we talked about I've been assigned a coach through the new superintendent induction program. And Michael has agreed to join me here to share a little bit about the program. And then I would share a little bit about my transition plan with you. And I'm just excited, and I'm grateful that you came to join us at the meeting and observe. And I'm being observed like a teacher would. So, just appreciate the time, and I'm excited to have you come up and speak.
All right. Is this microphone good, please? Thanks for having me. So yeah, Michael Sullivan, retired superintendent, and I'm from the western part of the state. I was a coach for Gene Sullivan at the Bi-County Collaborative nearby here the last couple of years. So I live in Northampton, so this is worked out in that way, up and down the Connecticut River for 32, 33 years or so. Anyway, the program, if you've been on the school committee a while, you might have seen an earlier iteration of this, but it's been around for 13 years. And the point of the program is to support new superintendents with really best practices. We are highly focused on trying to help new superintendents themselves be focused on having all students learning at a high level. So even though we've all dealt with COVID the last couple of years, our mantra is kind of like, let's get back as much as we can to advancing equitable learning experiences for all kids, trying to keep our eyes on the prize about that, which means we help new supers try and think and plan strategically, which includes starting with an entry plan to get to know their district thoroughly. Even if they've been in the district for a while, they're in a new seat, hearing things, new things from people and from different perspectives. So we want them to kind of take the time, go slow to go fast is one of our sayings. So that's what the entry process is about. And then later in the wintertime, Lucas will probably be sharing with you and with his leadership team kind of entry findings that he's got about what he's observed, what they've looked at in terms of data, qualitative and quantitative, and then use that information to be a foundation for forming a multi-year strategy going from there. Probably work that will be occurring, typically next spring and summer. So anyway, so that's part of the work. There's also the work of trying to improve the skills of one's leadership team and all the stakeholders, the faculty leaders, the professional staff. And so you just saw a really good example of that in action. So that's a component of the work. Another component of the work is being a mentor for each superintendent's, supporting them in the challenges, in the growth that they have as individuals in the role. And that varies from superintendent to superintendent. So there's flexibility to the program as well. The main kind of practical components of the program are monthly meetings that with all of the supers in the cohort. There's typically between 22 to 32 new superintendents every year that are in the program, and almost all of them in the state join us. And so we have days that are about the curriculum, the components I just talked about, where we talk about those as a group and kind of compare notes. And there's time for the new supers to collaborate with each other, in addition to collaborating with the 8 or 9 coaches across the state. The second and probably most important part of the program are the individual meetings between the coach and the new superintendent. In the first year, those can be up to 6 hours a month, which are not just meetings between the super and the coach, but also attending leadership team meetings and also going to observe classrooms in action together and to meet with principals and kind of observe and support the superintendents as they support the principals supporting their faculty. So there's this whole crazy chain of support and adult learning that we're trying to advance. So that's what Lucas is up to, and that's what you all have helped to support financially. Oh, and so it's 2 years of coaching, and then the third year of the program is almost exclusively consultancies with a regional area colleagues. So that's a little less intensive, and it's kind of like saying, all right, now you all support each other together without a lot of coach intervention. So that's what we're up to. So, any questions for?
Well, I was going to ask you that. I wasn't sure if you wanted Dr. Sullivan to answer questions now or after your transition plan. I didn't know if you or he could leave. I don't want him to stay. He just said he's from far away.
He wants to be free.
I believe you're here to be a part of this. Sure, absolutely. So we'll be mindful that I won't spend 2 hours. I'll keep it to 1. Okay. All right. So I'll stick around. 1.9 hours. You could probably get ice cream and come back. Basically, the transition plan, and I will be sharing this out with our community, just hits on, we've been fortunate in Franklin to experience stable leadership over the years, and my hope is to continue that stability and transition into this role. I'm continuing to learn as an educator in this new perch that I have, and develop my skills. And there's certainly areas of growth that I'll continue to try to develop as I continue. Basically, the overview, I talk about my values and what I believe about education. And a few things I would highlight is I believe that students are at the center of our work. We've been demonstrating that in this district for years, and relationships matter. And we have a collective responsibility to support kids, and ultimately high functioning teams are rooted in respect and integrity, which are fundamental to that work. 2 areas I would focus on. One was because I'm transitioning, it was about sustaining momentum in the work that we're doing and not putting together an entry plan that wasn't authentic to kind of my role and having transitioned from within the district. So trying to focus on sustaining momentum, but then also setting priorities for the future. So I've set goals. I've begun transitioning since I've been appointed, meeting with different folks. That will continue through the time, and Michael talked about that, to engage with stakeholders throughout, reviewing our data and documents. I've listed some of that information in my report, visiting with schools. Michael mentioned getting to schools with principals, and I know that you're going to be joining me for some of those. And also working within our leadership team to continue to grow and move our district forward. So I try to align a transition plan closely to what we're doing as a leadership team, so that it wasn't a one-off where I'm doing this work kind of in a silo, but it's connected to a bigger idea around our district goals. And we've begun that work, and we have some real momentum And you'll hear more about the district plan in future meetings, the next meeting, and then school improvement plans. So I thought the closer we're aligned that way, my findings, I would hope would translate to being shared with our team, school committee, and then find their way into some of the work that we do moving forward to Set Goals for Kids. So that's basically an overview of the plan itself. At this point, I would open it up to any questions you may have for me or for Dr. Sullivan.
Okay. Camille, I'll start with you.
No questions right now. Thank you.
Thank you. David Callahan?
Dr. Sullivan, thank you very much for the overview of what we're looking at. And to Lucas, too, I really appreciate kind of the awareness of maintaining that momentum while at the same time really kind of looking to elevate yourself, because it's always difficult when you're kind of in a position, as you were, where, you know the assistant superintendent role so well, and you kind of know, in your mind where you were going over the next couple of years. But obviously we got to, ratchet that up in the new role. And so I'm glad that we're kind of, really kind of keeping all the work we were already doing moving forward while kind of looking to, like I said, to really ratchet that up. So, and I look forward to really kind of taking a look at these, the findings in the future.
So, Mr. Jagir, thank you for sharing the plan. Definitely will read this. I'm warmed to hear that you will be sharing this with the residents and the families in Franklin. I think being transparent with them and what your plan is, at least that's a great foundation, and they understand where your vision is and what you're looking to do, and there are no surprises in terms of what you'll be doing down the road. So definitely much appreciated that. I guess for Dr. Sullivan, the question for you though is, as a school committee, how can we help Mr. Jagir be successful in his transition? Is there anything that we could do in particular, or just from your expertise?
Thank you. Thanks. That's a great question. There's obvious ways that it's great to be generally supportive where you can. I think to get to know the superintendent, we encourage the superintendents to speak and get to know you all individually and your motivations for being on the school committee. You've got relationships directly with him. I think in very practical terms coming up will be the development of his goals for the year, and we try and impress upon the new superintendents not to either offer or to be kind of, not coerced would not be the right word, but to not take on too many goals in their first year. It's, even though he's high performing and internal, there's still a lot of things that are new in terms of how do I handle them. And so how do I think about the job? How do I develop the relationships the way that I want to develop them? So we would ask that you be mindful of having goals that recognize and legitimize the process of becoming a superintendent as part of what he does, and then also having goals, I think, that are not separate from the work you would like the leadership to accomplish in terms of either district or school improvement plans. That's a good place to draw the goals from for a superintendent. So that's just one example that comes to mind. So thank you for that question.
All right, no, great. Thank you. Appreciate the answer.
David Thiel?
Yes, thank you very much, Lucas, for putting this together. It's very thoughtful, and it's excellent that both this plan and this program exists to set you up for success, because when you succeed, the entirety of Franklin Public Schools succeeds. So thank you.
Please.
Good point. I just want to comment on one thing that you had said, Dr. Sullivan, was about this is sort of describing the chain of adult learning, right? So it's you, and then it's Mr. Jagir, and then it's the principals, and then it's the teachers, and then it goes down to the students. And I just love that as an idea and as a visual, and really appreciate that. It's all growth mindset, no matter what position you hold, no matter, your age, your years of experience. And I think that's something that I've seen Mr. Jagir be very, open to growth mindset and supportive of that, and humble in that way, as far as always being a lifelong learner and continuous self-improvement. And I'm looking forward to reading this and talking about your goals next month.
Megan?
Yeah, thank you so much for the presentation. And listen, I think this is fantastic. It's sort of like continues with the digital learning, right? Where we, help the teachers, help the students, and we're always learning. And it's great to have resources and people help each other out and not be in a sink or swim, situation. So thank you very much.
Dr. Sullivan, thank you so very much for coming out this evening. We really appreciate it. And for taking the time to mentor our wonderful new superintendent. So thank you.
It's a pleasure. See you around.
And now you can go get some ice cream.
I will.
And drive safe.
Have faith.
Yeah, and drive safe.
Good choice.
All right, moving along to information matters. Let's see. Superintendent evaluation, Elise.
So we don't really have any new updates, but as we were just sort of talking about, we'll expect to review the superintendent's new goals in October, and I'm hoping to pull the subcommittee. So Camille and Megan, we should get together probably, Lucas, if you have whenever you have a draft of the goals, and we can look at them in light of our evaluation report before the school committee. That would be helpful.
Budget, David McNeil.
Our budget has not met since the last meeting.
I did have a question. I remember, I think it was like February, March, we had a joint budget subcommittee where it was like the town council and the FinCom and school committee, and we all met, and it was very like, are we doing it again, or was that just like a one-time thing? Do you know? Have you heard anything?
The plan was to do it multiple times. So
Okay.
I haven't heard anything since.
Okay. I'll have to look into that.
I would certainly love to do it again because I thought it was a great resource for all of us as well as the town.
All right. Thank you. Policy, Dave Callahan.
We just approved a number of the work that we had been doing, and we have another meeting this month, actually, on September 28th. It's our next meeting.
Oh my God. Already?
Already.
All right. Community relations. We have our booth reserved for Harvest Festival, October 1st, 12 to 5. Everybody step on down. I'm going to be enlisting people to come help me run the booth. At our next meeting, we're going to be discussing the MASC resolutions for the MASC Delegate Assembly being held in November. Space needs and facilities, Mr. Charles.
Yes. So we met today. It was follow up on our meeting that was 2 weeks ago. Yes. In this meeting, we reviewed the compiled results of the independent assessments. We received the cost per consultant, and we have come down to a consultant that we will bring for approval for all of you on the 27th. So look forward to that. So our next school committee meeting. We also talked through the Redistricting Advisory Committee interest form, where we're working on how we will be asking the community, families, the educators to participate in this process. And now as a process, we'll also bring up the request to officially create the Redistricting Advisory Committee as of next school committee meeting. And then there will be, now that we're entrenched in the process more so and it's formal, and we're getting a consultant, there will be more communications being sent out to the families, the educators, whomever wants to be aware of this, and that's hopefully everybody and everyone. Mr. DeGear will be also formally sending out some communications to the educators to keep them abreast of what's going on and how they can participate as well. So it's becoming more formal, and there will be a lot more updates, and I feel like we'll have more detailed updates as we go, once we have the consultant, we'll have clearer timeframes. So it's a exciting process, long process, and we'll make sure that everybody and everyone knows what's going on throughout the whole entire system.
We'll do our best.
Yes.
Joint PCC.
Yes, so me again. So we met for the first time. This was just our introductory meeting for the first year, where we introduced the new leadership of the PCCs to the new central office staff. We gave them a quick update around some of the just kind of standards in terms of how the PCC should work when signing contracts and things just to be mindful of in terms of the names that's on it being the PCC versus the school, types of insurance, just so that there's some standardization. Mr. Jagir was really focused on making sure that there's consistency across the board so that we're not necessarily doing things differently for the various PCCs, which I think is a great item and a strategy to take. From there, just getting up to speed on what the PCCs are doing. And it ranged for just our normal back to school events. So things such as supporting the teachers for lunches as a welcome back lunch, introductory meet and greets with the families to build some camaraderie and some sense of community. So these range from ice cream socials to like parent get-togethers, and then just the various fundraisers that they're doing. So they're once again doing the various things such as Booster-thon, book fairs. So a lot of activities that will happen this year, and the PCCs are. I've asked them to also help participate in the communication around any of the space needs work that we're doing as well, just as another avenue to communicate and ensure that we cast a very wide net. And we'll just be working hand in hand throughout the year just to make sure that families are involved with the events that are happening to enrich their students above and beyond what this district does.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
School Wellness Advisory Council, Ms. Elise.
So we will resume our monthly meetings on October 4th.
Nice. Okay.
Nice. See what I did? All right. Listen, it's been a long day. Hungry.
CPAC, please.
So there's a Meet the CPAC board event on Zoom on September 28th. And they're planning a trunk or treat in October and a book discussion, hopefully planned at Escape into Fiction in November. So check out their Facebook page for more information.
Thank you. Substance Abuse Task Force, Mr. Jagir. My apologies. That's okay. Our first meeting will be October 11th. I plan to send the agenda out by the end of the week.
Okay. And the DEI committee, who am I going to?
That would be Miss Harris, and she is posting for committee members. So she's posting for committee members, and then the first meeting should be sometime in October.
Okay.
And we should probably look at the committees where we have school committee representation and look at who's assigned. All right, thumbs up. Okay.
Yep. All right, perfect. All right, moving on to consent agenda.
I recommend approval of the minutes of the August 23rd, 2022 school committee meeting as detailed. And I recommend acceptance of a check for $499.71 from O'Connor Portraiture for in-house enrichment as detailed.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as detailed?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Discussion, questions? All right, seeing none, I'm going to do a roll call vote. Camille Birdstein?
Yes.
David Callahan?
Yes.
Al Charles?
Yes.
Dave McNeil?
Yes.
Elise Stokes?
Yes.
Megan Whitmore?
Yes.
Denise Spencer, yes. All right, approved. Citizens' comments. Are there any citizens in the audience, in person or online, who would like to make a comment on an item not on tonight's agenda and falls within the committee's purview? I'll give folks at home a minute if they'd like to raise their hand. I know sometimes it's hard. Okay. All right. New business, Mr. Jagir.
So next meeting, you can expect an update on the district strategy for improvement, a district improvement plan, and some school improvement plans. We're going to break them up over the next two meetings. So we'll start with, I believe we'll start with our elementary side.
Pre-K and elementary.
Pre-K and elementary, thank you. And then the next meeting will be our secondary schools that'll be the month of October for school improvement plan approval. Also, I'm sure we'll have more updates related to space needs and some other further updates we can provide regarding staffing and things like that.
All right, so next meeting, September 27th. Right, I would like to entertain a motion to adjourn from September 13th, 2022 school committee meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Vote will come on the motion. Roll call vote. Camille Bernstein,
Yes.
David Callahan,
Yes.
Al Charles,
Yes.
Dave McNeil,
Yes.
Elise Stokes,
Yes.
Megan Whitmore,
Yes.
me Spencer, yes. All right, thank you everyone. See you in 2 weeks.